So we're at the end of 2020, and there's a lot of movies that came out. Some good, some bad, and I just want to go ahead and I just want to give like a little quick review about all those movies that I watched this year, and just kind of give my thoughts on them. So let's go ahead and get started with January. I didn't watch anything in January.
Moonfall is surely an interesting movie. When I saw a trailer, I was excited because I love movies that destroyed the world 2012 style. However, that being said, this movie's got the goofiest premise I've seen in a movie. Basically, this movie is about an AI that has taken over our previous world, and the moon is actually one of many ships that have contained this defined habitable world. This movie also has an ending that seems to set up a franchise, which, I'm pretty excited for that. The visuals in this movie were amazing, so if we got a sequel with the same amount of quality, I wouldn't really be that disappointed. I feel like this movie would be better experienced in theaters because of how the destruction looks. However, I watched it from home, and I didn't really get that big of an experience as it probably would have been in theaters, but yeah, it worked. I've never really played any of the Uncharted games, so whenever I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, oh, they're making a movie off of that character from PlayStation All-Stars. The only thing that got me interested in it was that Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland were going to be in it. However, when I watched it, I thought the movie was alright, it wasn't anything that special, but if I was bored with nothing to do and saw this movie, I would definitely watch it again. The movie was pretty solid for a new Batman. Robert Paddington does a good job portraying a Batman that isn't as experienced as the ones that we've seen before. You can also see he hasn't developed his Bruce Wayne side yet, and only his Batman side, because he's emo on both sides. Of course, I did find this movie a little bit boring, but I think that's just because of the fact that I have a low attention span. But other than that, I'd say this is a good movie. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a great movie. This movie is both hilarious and emotional. Of course, if you aren't a fan of weird humor, you might not like it because of all the weird things that they have to do in this movie in order to get multiversal abilities. Aside from all that, this movie also has a very nice message to it about how you should appreciate life, and yeah.
Making up a song for the bubble.
My brother found this movie and wanted to show it to me. Basically, this movie is about how these actors have to be bubbled for quarantine because of COVID to finish a movie. It's got Keegan-Michael Key, Karen Gillan, and Pedro Pascal in it, so, seemed like a good watch to me. This movie's got jokes that I found hilarious, but what lost points for me was how extra security took to keep these actors in there. Listen, I get that COVID is a serious thing and all, but that seems a little too extra for me. Now, I think it's obvious I'm not the target audience for this movie. This movie has things in it that I feel that I wouldn't understand because I'm not a teenage girl. However, there were jokes in this movie that I found pretty funny.
How old are you? 30?
I'm 17.
Oh, see? This is what happens when you don't wear sunblock and do drugs all day.
Also, this is the first time that I've ever seen a Pixar villain be defeated by twerking, of all things. So yeah, this definitely gets an 8 out of 10 from me. This movie is definitely better than the first one, mainly because of all the new characters that appear for this one. Jim Carrey looks a lot more like Dr. Robotnik, and there are new environments to enjoy here. Also, hot take, I actually enjoyed the wedding subplot. I think people hate on it because they didn't feel like it was supposed to be in this movie, which, yeah, it didn't feel like it was supposed to be in this movie, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless.
I want to avenge you, Father. I want to save you, Mother. I want to kill you, feel it.
The Northman is a great movie about Vikings. The movie is about a kid who is set to become king, and then his dad is killed by his brother, and so the son escapes and vows revenge. Basically, this movie is Lion King, but cooler. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fully enjoy this movie because it's not a movie where they talk and that's where the exposition is. You have to pay attention to what's going on, otherwise you won't know what's going on. And when my brother took me to watch this, he didn't even know the sword was supposed to be unsheathed at night when you first watched this. So it's definitely a movie that you have to watch multiple times in order to really enjoy it. But nonetheless, I thought it was a great watch.
I'm the bad guy.
The Bad Guys isn't necessarily a bad movie, but like Uncharted, I wouldn't really watch it unless I had a nephew around and I was pretty bored.
Paddington 2 is incredible.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is a great movie that you should watch. Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage definitely make a great friend combo in this movie. Plus, this movie is also just really funny. Yeah, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers isn't really anything that special. This movie is basically just a big cameo fest, so MCU fans are going to love this one. Little story about how I saw Top Gun. Me and Lawski, the guy who got scammed in the previous video, basically we're supposed to go see another movie that came out this year in October. And Top Gun was still playing, and someone was still managing tickets at this time, which was the weirdest occurrence that night because I'd never seen that happen before in Malco Theater. But basically, they checked our tickets, said, "Oh, sorry, you can't go in this movie." So we were like, what the, why? And eventually settled for Top Gun instead. So, yeah, that's the story of how I saw Top Gun, and I gotta say, I enjoyed this one a lot better than that other movie that I would later see at home. Because, wow, Top Gun is definitely just a great movie. I didn't even see the original Top Gun, and I still enjoyed it. The only thing I watched related to Top Gun was a Razzle commentary. I have not seen that much Bob's Burgers before watching this movie, but I have to say, after watching the movie, I got into Bob's Burgers. This movie was funny, and it's a nice little change of pace from all the shows that just seem to hate their families and modern adult shows and animation. And yeah, this movie's just a good watch, and it got me into Bob's Burgers after seeing it. Of course, the only thing that knocked it down a point was it was a musical. I'm not really a big fan of musicals, but I mean, hey, do what you want, you know? When I got out of theaters, I thought that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was a 9 out of 10, but I'm a bit disappointed because after seeing the movie, I just saw concept after concept of what we could have gotten for this movie. And it's so disappointing to see that, you know, because of Disney's time constraints and also because of the whole creative differences thing, we never could have gotten, like, an actual good multiverse movie. For a movie called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, there wasn't that much madness in the multiverse. You only get to see 2 universes, and I feel like that's all they could really do. Even the fight scenes were cut down heavily. I mean, look at this one with Wanda versus what I assume is the sorcerers. It's so cool, and yet they could have put it in the movie, but they didn't. I mean, if you're gonna have Wanda irredeemable, at least make her more of a dangerous villain at that point. But yeah, this movie was good. Aside from CGI in like certain parts, it was a good movie. It was, well, I mean, not good, but it was all right. You know, it's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen. Well, Everything Everywhere All at Once does it better. The Black Phone is a great horror movie. The original story is written by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill, and I have to say that while I have never read the original story because I don't read books, the movie is pretty good. Talking to dead previous victims of child murder to tell the main character their mistakes is a great concept, and it's done so well in this movie. It's also a movie with great horror elements. I mean, just imagining being stuck in a basement of some child kidnapper / murderer that will eventually kill you, and you can't really do anything. It's just always a genuinely horrifying thing to think about. Thor: Love and Thunder was just mid. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just mid. I walked out of the theater thinking to myself, wow, that was a good movie. And later, Relapse hit me and I thought to myself, oh. This movie is filled with a lot of jokes, some good, some bad, especially the goats. That was actually the worst part of the movie, and I don't know what Taika was thinking whenever he put that in. But yeah, overall, this movie was just mid. Nope is a great movie that I would recommend with headphones, or if you got like a cool surround sound, you can also do that. Just same with Top Gun. This movie has some great sound design, and especially for that monkey too. Unfortunately, I have to rant for a bit here because AMC decided to put this movie in the worst theater I've ever seen. The sound quality was horrible, and the screen was basically just a whole bunch of black space with a little bit of the movie in the middle. It's basically like watching a movie like this. It's horrible. Also, the ending kind of put me off from it because of the goofy way that the main villain was killed. But, I mean, this movie is still great. The ending just kind of fell flat for me. DC League of Super Pets is just a kids movie that stars Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart, and there's not really much to it. It's just kind of a movie that's just there. I didn't even watch it. I just had it as background audio while I scrolled through my phone, and yeah, it was just background audio for me. It's just a kids movie, so you ever want to just have your kids sit in front of a TV just doing nothing but watch a movie or something, this is definitely the movie you want for them. Bullet Train is a great movie. It's basically just a fun movie about assassins and train. There's nothing much to it other than the story of why they're all there in the first place. It's on Netflix at the time of recording, so if you want to go ahead and check it out for yourself and you have a subscription to Netflix, then go ahead and do that because it's a great watch for probably not family, but definitely for friends. This movie also ranks number 4 in my top 5 movies of the year. I wasn't able to watch the entire series due to Netflix not having season 2 of Rise of the TMNT on the, on their platform, but the movie was still a great watch. I'm not really a big fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but this movie was still it's just a fun little watch. The visuals were really nice, although most of them were spoiled in the trailer. But yeah, this movie is just a great movie to watch. This movie might be better if seen in theaters because I watched it at home. This is a weird but good movie. Emphasis on the weird.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
I think Raka Raka might have desensitized me to gore because I really did not find this movie that scary. If anything, this movie was more funny than scary. I'm not a psychopath, at least to my knowledge. I feel high amounts of empathy for, so I'm pretty sure I'm good. But yeah, this movie was just kind of a pitch black comedy, and it's just kind of, it's just not really that, it's not that scary. So if you're looking for a great comedy and you're mentally insane, then go ahead and give this one a watch. If you're very squeamish, then you might want to give this one a watch too if you love horror.
Hey there, future me. So basically, I'm here to clarify myself because while editing, my anxiety started flaring out, thinking that maybe someone wouldn't hire me because of what I just said. Basically, I'm trying to say that the absurdity of which that movie took, what they did in that movie, that's what made me laugh. Like, the whole Art the Clown doing his goofy stuff, the girl diarrheaing on herself, like, randomly out of nowhere. All that was stuff that made me laugh because of how out there it was, not the the horribly gory, messed up parts, alright? That just here to clear myself up on that, because if I don't, then I'm gonna get worried that I won't get a job in the future.
So this movie is the one I was supposed to see instead of Top Gun Maverick, and I gotta say, the random moment that Malco decided to actually let someone man the tickets was probably one of the best blessings I could have been received. Because this movie was terrible. I went into this movie at home just thinking it was going to be a great little movie seeing Michael Myers and Laurie Strode fight each other. But no, it's about Corey, a random character who's introduced in this movie just for whatever reason they could have thought of. And they just made him the main character of the entire damn thing. This movie doesn't even focus on Michael, and whenever he is focused on, he gets bodied by some teenager.
You got something I need. Give it.
I mean, the ending fight was cool, but that's all I can really give this movie. The gore was good too, I guess. But, oh god, this movie is such a mess. Black Adam is a cool superhero movie where Dwayne Johnson fights the Justice Society. He's a cool superhero who doesn't follow the rules but his own. That's basically the entire premise of the movie, and I mean, it works.
Everyone's got demons. My demons have names.
Yeah, Wendell and Wild was alright. There's not really much to the movie aside from the fact that it's Henry Selick's newest movie in like years. But yeah, there's that. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Finally! A good Marvel movie? It is a special presentation, but it's about the length of a movie, so I'm just gonna go ahead and call this a movie. Werewolf by Night is probably the greatest Marvel movie I've seen this year, and it's definitely a change from the normal Marvel formula. There's blood now! Now you enjoyed this one, you don't even have to be a Marvel fan to enjoy it. It's just a nice little werewolf movie. The opening to this movie had me in tears. The entire theater was quiet whenever that opening happened. And it's just... that was certainly an experience because I was on the verge of tears in that moment. The whole thing with Namor, or Kukulkan as they call him, it's just, it's really cool. The final fight was reminiscent of Peter versus Green Goblin and No Way Home, so I gotta say, this movie, solid 9 out of 10. This is the first horror movie, if you could call that, I could actually watch without having to cover my ears. It's a dark comedy that centers around a chef who has meaning behind his meals, no matter the cost. This one was a good one, and it ranks 5 on my top 5 list of movies. Strange World was mid. It was a movie that was alright, and it had an interesting premise, but it's just a normal Pixar movie. There's nothing really special to it. It was also somehow a generational trauma movie, which I wasn't expecting. Violent Night is probably one of the best Christmas movies I will ever see in a lifetime. Of course, that's probably because I'm a violence-loving sociopath. I'm reaching a point where I'm just gonna stop trying to clear my name. But this movie was just a great watch. David Harbour has stated that he wants to make a franchise out of this, at least so I've heard. And quite frankly, I would be just willing to see all the movies that they could make out of, like, you know, all these holiday figures.
I don't know what Christmas is, but Christmas time.
Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is probably one of the most heartwarming things that we'll ever see in the MCU. Mainly just because of all the, you know, it's just a nice little movie to watch and just see all the Guardians all happy before the eventual storm that will be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But yeah, whenever that comes around, you know, there's this to watch so that you can just get a reminder of how happy they could be before what will happen in that movie. And yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Who is your favorite fearless hero? Who is your...
I went into watching Puss in Boots thinking it would just be a goofy little kids movie, but no, this movie was a lot darker than I thought it would be. There are plenty of themes that adults and kids could enjoy in this movie, and death is the most noticeable because it comes for us all. I gotta say, this was definitely one of the most darkest kids movies I've ever seen. Alright then, well, with that all said, hope you enjoyed my little movie review of my personal opinion on all these movies, and yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say, so see ya.